to this edition of Border Report Live. My name is Rudy Mideles, and I am your host here in Harlingen, Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley of Deep South Texas. Got an incredible program lined up for you today. In just a moment, our Salvador Rivera is going to be joining us to tell us a story that is very interesting when it comes to deportation happening in detentions that are happening with ICE at federal government buildings. And a little later, our South Texas correspondent, Sandra Sanchez, is going to join us with a special guest for today's program. The managing director of the North American Development Bank, Mr. John Beckham, is going to be joining us in just a little bit as well. So we're very much looking forward to today's program. But as always, we're going to start by taking a look at what's trending across the border, starting with the latest as federal immigration agents arrive in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, that happened this weekend, as we reported to you. And now they plan to expand their immigration deportation enforcement to Raleigh. That's according to the mayor of Charlotte, who says the expansion could come as soon as today. Mayor Janet Cowell said she didn't know how large the operation would be or how long agents would be present, as immigration authorities haven't spoken about it. But take a listen to what Homeland Security Kristi Noem had to say when asked why agents had been sent to North Carolina.
In fact, Charlotte specifically, we had a high number of child abuse, trafficking, neglect type of instances that we had identified over our work there. And so these operations are based on where we have a criminal element to our illegal alien population that's in the country and what we can do to get them off of our streets and protect our children and people.
And moving on to the next story, attorneys and migrant advocates in San Diego are concerned about what's happening at the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services offices in downtown San Diego. They tell Border Report that federal immigration officers are working inside the building, arresting unsuspecting people who are showing up for citizen and visa appointments. And I wanted to bring in now our San Diego correspondent, Salvador Rivera, to expand on this reporting that he has brought us. Salvador.
Well, Rudy, we've all heard about the ICE raids that are going on throughout the country, but we are starting to hear now about a new tactic being taken on by ICE agents. Apparently, they're camping out at federal offices, buildings such as the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services office in downtown San Diego. People are arriving for their appointments to renew their visas, update their applications for citizenship or for resident status, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, agents are popping up and then apprehending them and taking them away. And this happened yesterday to a couple, a newlywed couple that we met here in San Diego.
Joshua and Hene Deguman tied the knot a little more than a year ago, but their marital bliss hit a big snag Monday morning after Hene showed up at the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services office in downtown San Diego for an appointment.
She's been here on a student visa. It expired. She got a work visa, and then before it expired, we got married.
Deguman says during her appointment inside the building, agents burst in.
ICE agents came in and just arrested her.
According to Deguman, his wife was technically out of status, something she was in the process of fixing by getting her citizenship.
One moment you're planning breakfast, the next moment you're planning an attorney. It seems like this is like entrapment. It seems like they're having you come in for something that you think is going to happen. It's the exact opposite.
Deguman's wife has been taken to the Otay Mesa Detention Center. He hopes the facility provides medication for her diabetes.
It's killing me knowing that my wife is going to be in a detention center, maybe deported. They said maybe they won't deport her, but they were very stern about it. They gave us about 2 minutes to say goodbye, and that was it.
Deguman says he and his wife were aware of the ICE raids going on across the country, but they never thought it would happen to them, especially at the USCIS facility, calling it entrapment.
It was the last thing I thought would ever happen. So it's as if they're hiding in offices, waiting for a certain signal or a call, then they come in and they arrest you. Here I am thinking we're going to have a life together forever, and now she could never come back to the U.S. again.
Attorneys have told Border Report what happened to Hene Deguman has been happening to others here in recent weeks.
That something kind of strange as he was looking back at his warning that a lot of other people who had come in for appointments were not coming out of the building. So it led him to believe that a lot of other folks were getting apprehended, just like his wife had. Now, an update on what's going on with his wife, Hene Degomond. She is not facing immediate deportation, according to an attorney. She has some options. She will see a judge on December 1st and actually has a bond hearing and could, in theory, be released on bail. So that is good news for Mr. Degomond. Now, overstays, from what the attorney was telling us, overstays are sometimes forgiven to spouses of U.S. citizens, so this could work in their favor. Also, they have to submit several forms to mount a legal defense. But Rudy, this is expensive. The attorney was telling us that to mount such a legal defense can cost you about $10,000.
Wow.
So it's pretty pricey, but they're hopeful that she can stay here. They are afraid that she goes back to Norway. It's going to be very difficult on her because of her diabetes. She tends to be cold all the time. This is what Mr. Degomond was telling us. That's why she preferred being in Southern California in a warm weather climate, which she could feel a little bit better with her diabetes. But this is, it seems like they have a long fight ahead of them.
Yeah, it sounds like it's an expensive one as well. So thank you so much for your reporting, Salvador. We appreciate it. And I'm sure you're going to stay on top of this story as it develops throughout the process. We appreciate you. San Diego correspondent Salvador Rivera. Moving on, in Mexico, unidentified gunmen killed 7 men during a horse race in southern Chihuahua this past weekend. There's a map of where Chihuahua is located on your screen now. Now, it is an attack that Mexican police attribute to an ongoing feud between 2 criminal groups. The Saturday shooting at Carol Santa Teresa in Parral, Mexico, prompted authorities to deploy dozens of police officers to rural communities in search of the shooters and to urge residents not to go outside. During the investigation, police found a mutilated body in a plaza at the entrance to the town. A message next to the body indicated the killing was in retaliation for the racetrack massacre.
It was a horse race taking place at Carol Santa Teresa. It was an armed aggression between 2 criminal groups, and 7 people lost their lives. According to our investigations, some of the people killed belonged to a criminal group operating in the region. Some were even wanted by the police for generating violence.
Mexican Army troops and National Guard members have been deployed to the city there and have also set up highway checkpoints. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, our South Texas correspondent Sandra Sanchez is going to be leading a conversation with the managing director for the North American Development Bank, Mr. John Beckham. Looking forward to that conversation when we return. Border Report Live is back in 1 minute. Welcome back to this edition of Border Report Live. My name is Rudy Mideles here in Harlingen, Texas. Time now to bring in our South Texas correspondent, Sandra Sanchez, along with our guest for today's program, the Managing Director of the North American Development Bank, Mr. John Beckham. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Beckham.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Great to be back, Rudy. Wanted to talk with Mr. Beckham. North American Development Bank has money to give to a problem that we have on the border with U.S. and Mexico, and that is water. We've talked about water a lot on this show. There is something called a new Water Resiliency Fund, Mr. Beckham, and I understand you put out a call for proposals. Tell us what you're asking for and what you're willing to give.
Sure. Well, I think the best place is the Water Resiliency Fund is an effort to try to diversify resources, water resources throughout the border region. And it's $400 million. And right now, we're going to have rolling calls. And right now, we're starting in South Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley, asking the irrigation districts to submit proposal to us saying what kind of infrastructure investments do they have or could they have that require funding that will have measurable conservation of water, as well as diversify the types of water that they can offer, both for the agricultural consumers, as well as the communities that are connected to those irrigation systems.
So let's tell viewers a bit about the North American Development Bank and what you all do, and what would someone have to their location in order to qualify for one of your low interest grants or loans?
Right. Well, first, the North American Development Bank is a binational organization owned 50% by the United States federal government and 50% by the Mexican federal government. And we were started 30 years ago with the North American Free Trade Agreement, and we invest in infrastructure on both sides of the border to improve the quality of life of communities on both sides of the border, realizing that this really is where the binational relationship between both countries comes to work every day. Now, for the Water Resiliency Fund, we're looking to invest in projects that are located within 62 miles north of the border. So that pretty much encompasses the entire Rio Grande Valley, from the Gulf of Mexico up to, I'll leave it between, the
Valfurias checkpoint,
where the Rio Grande Valley ends and where Laredo begins. But that's where we're looking to start.
Okay, so yeah, it's about 100 kilometers north or 300 kilometers south of the U.S. Mexico border. And, Salvador and I have talked a lot about the problems with water, not enough water here deposited from Mexico into the Rio Grande. Recently, we just had the 5-year deadline for Mexico to pay its owed water to the United States under a 1944 treaty, and they missed it by almost half. They did make kind of a good faith push there at the very end, but still just over 875,000 acre feet out of 1.75 million that was owed, right? But Mexico isn't the only one to blame as far as payments to the water, right? What is really driving the water issues in South Texas and northern Mexico? You must have a good idea from a financial perspective.
Right. Sure. Well, overall, there's just less water within the river basin, and that's caused by historic level droughts, as well as a population growth on both sides of the border. That is, we just have more consumers and more households and more industry that are using the water that is increasingly less available. So we do need to think about this comprehensively. The amounts of money that are at stake here are tremendous. The 1836 project in Texas projects that for the state of Texas, it needs over $120 billion in new water infrastructure. So that's just a colossal number. And so our program is designed is to catalyze money from the state of Texas, municipalities, private funding, to invest in urgently needed water conservation and diversification projects.
Now, I understand that in order to qualify, the projects must meet one of 3 categories: agriculture, water conservation, water resource diversification, and water conservation in a municipal system. Kind of explain that. I mean, what do you want? You want to see covered canals, pipes?
Sure.
What do you want to see?
We want, frankly, Senator, you said it, all of the above. We want to see covered canals or changing canals to pipe. We want to see fixing the leaks. There's a lot of water loss in the leaks. We'd like to see improved metering, so you know actually who's consuming the water, that they're being appropriately charged for it. I think we're also looking at projects such as reuse. So give the turn to the water a couple different times before discharging it into nature. There's also efforts to recharge aquifers. And lastly, there's desalinization, whether that's brackish groundwater or seawater. Right now, in this first call, though, we really think it's mostly going to be putting irrigation, improving the distribution of water loss in irrigation systems and the canals that push the water into the municipalities.
You mentioned this first call is basically the Rio Grande Valley. What counties specifically are eligible? And does this mean the Rio Grande Valley is in, crisis situation with the water that we got to fix first?
Right. Well, it's not our word. It's the judges of Hidalgo and Cameron County declared a water emergency 2 year and change ago, and we've been working with them since then with some technical assistance. So the urge is the need is urgent. The counties we're focused on are Willacy, Cameron, Hidalgo, and Jeez.
Starr, I believe.
Starr County. Thank you very much.
I live down here. You're based in San Antonio. It's not right on the top of mind for you then.
I am, but I've traveled through all of them, and I'm embarrassed about that. But thank you for bailing me out.
So this new announcement of a call for project proposals came earlier this month on November 6th at the Binational Rio Bravo Symposium that was actually held right here in McAllen. What did leaders say at that time, and how did they react to the fact that, hey, money's going to be available and you can start applying now?
I think first, the response was phenomenal. The response was very receptive. There was a lot of gracious gratitude saying, we've been asking to get some kind of financial support. They understand it's going to have to be a blend of financing, some loans that are going to have to be repaid, albeit at a lower interest rate, a combination of grants. So there was receptivity and gratitude. We received our first solicitation earlier this week. The period for submitting applications is through January 8th. So we're really encouraged that we're going to have a strong pipeline of projects to undertake in this first go around.
When will you make a decision about issuing the funds? Will it be after the January 8th deadline?
That's a fair question. What we believe to do is if we can begin moving on a particular application, we will do so as soon as possible. But there may be a resource allocation question, so we're likely to see what takes stock in February, what we have, and try to prioritize these based on shovel ready and the expected level of water savings that can be used throughout the system.
You said water savings, so I'm going to ask you, is money the only thing that's going to fix this problem, or is education and a different mindset going to be necessary?
Well, I think it's a big toolbox that we need to sharpen up. So I think there is water conservation. I think we need to invest in the infrastructure. We need to maintain that infrastructure. We need to be creative in trying to optimize the water we get. What do I mean by that? Could be stormwater capture, then figuring out how to clean that water either for industrial, agricultural use. So I think that's an all the above kind of mentality. We're going to have creativity, conservation, and really figure out that we have to invest in water. That means we have to pay for the infrastructure.
Well, and when you say invest, if you're talking desal, you are talking close to $1 billion projects, right? I mean, we've got one going on in Corpus Christi that's in its 10th year. The McAllen Rio Grande Valley is hoping to start one as well, but that's very expensive and it's more long-term, correct?
Yes, it is very expensive. Those water utilities that have desalination use it as within a blend. It's almost like a wine. They have different sources of water, groundwater, surface water, and desal water, because that is the most expensive. So they try to come up with a blend that's diversified and still cost effective.
Well, that's an interesting way of thinking on it. I when you said blend, I think of a rosé, which is a mixture between a white and a red, and now you're blending your water. And maybe this is a way to connect to more of the public and get them thinking about water too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So other than this Water Resiliency Fund, is there anything else at NADBank, that you're looking forward to as you go to renegotiate USMCA in the next upcoming year?
Well, the bank isn't directly involved in USMCA, even if we are a product of it. I think we believe the binational relationship is strong and dynamic. We need to articulate that. Sometimes the negative headlines dominate the negotiations. So the bank really tries to be an instrument for both countries that works for the benefit of the Mexico and United States, as well as the border communities. And we've worked through the last year with the transitions in the presidencies in both countries, and we're optimistic that we work and that both administrations realize that the bank is an important tool for both nations.
You're almost like a diplomat there, a financial diplomat. Now, you have to do a fine dance, and you must have some very interesting conversations with Mexican leaders and officials who take you into their confidence. And I mean, how hard is it to have these conversations and tell it to them straight on the U.S. side or on the Mexican side?
Right. Well, we were sort of joking before we went on air that I grew up in the border, but on the Great Lakes in Ohio, and I only know how to be straight with people, to be candid with you. So you try to say it in a constructive way. But I think where we can excel, and one of the things that motivates the staff at the bank, is by speaking candidly and identifying a common problem, a common agenda, and a common budget to address it, we can actually make progress that benefits both countries. And I think that is a formula that is important to articulate and replicate in a lot of different discussions between the United States and Mexico.
And do you have any upcoming meetings scheduled with, say, the Sheinbaum administration or leaders down there that that'll be crucial to getting the word out for this?
Sure. Absolutely. Well, the next upcoming meeting, I'll be actually in El Paso, Juarez later this week. But more importantly, to your question, is December 8th, we will be hosting our semi-annual board of directors meeting here in San Antonio. So there's a private component as well as a public component. You can check out details at the NADBank.org, because any public member is invited to participate either in person here in San Antonio, or we'll make a live stream with it available as well. So that it will be an opportunity for us to have these types of dialogues with our board of directors, who is comprised of federal representatives of both countries, as well as some local border community residents.
And I know that you mentioned your website. We also have a link to the project, and it's a lengthy paper. It gives kind of samples on how applications can be done, and that is also on borderreport.com.
Thank you for doing that.
We've been speaking with Managing Director for the North American Development Bank, Mr. John Beckham, about a wide range of issues surrounding the water situation between the United States and Mexico. We appreciate you being here today, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Well, stay with us. Border Report Live will be back in 1 minute. And welcome back to this edition of Border Report Live. My name is Rudy Mideles. You just heard our South Texas correspondent, Sandra Sanchez, lead a conversation with the Managing Director for the North American Development Bank, Mr. John Beckham. If you're just tuning in right now and you missed that conversation, well, you don't have to worry, because from immigration to trade, security to culture, Border Report Live dives deep into the issues impacting life along the U.S. Mexico border. And now you can join us for expert interviews, on the ground reporting, and the latest developments you won't hear anywhere else while you're on your commute home, while you're out walking the dog, or maybe you're getting some grocery shopping done, because we are now available in podcast form. You can subscribe to Border Report Live now on Apple Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, as well as the video and audio versions of this program on YouTube. So make sure to like and subscribe to us today. Taking a look at a few more headlines before we let you go for this edition. President Donald Trump is announcing a quote-unquote FIFA pass, which will allow foreigners with World Cup tickets to get expedited visa appointments. FIFA President Gianni Infantino was at the White House on Monday with the president. He says the U.S. wants to welcome the world for the global soccer tournament. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said more than 400 consular offices have been dispatched to handle visa demand. The president encouraged World Cup travelers to apply for their visas right away. Trump emphasized the importance of the World Cup success and mentioned the possibility of moving games if security concerns and safety concerns begin to arise. And staying on the visa topic, those traveling to see the soccer games may pay more for their visas. The cost to get a U.S. tourist visa is expected to go up by $250, according to the U.S. State Department. It's part of a provision included in President Trump's so-called One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The U.S. Consul General in Tijuana said there is an ongoing, quote-unquote, high demand for this type of travel document. 4 months ago, the cost of the coveted U.S. tourist visa was scheduled to go up by $250. It will soon cost $435 due to an applied, quote-unquote, visa integrity fee. On average, the U.S. consulate in Tijuana is processing 1,000 appointments per day. Let me say that again, 1,000 appointments per day for people seeking tourist visas. He says many people will be applying for visas to see the World Cup next year. The average wait time to receive a tourist visa right now is more than 3 months long. That's going to do it for us today. For Salvador Rivera in San Diego, Sandra Sanchez in McAllen today, and for myself, Rudy Mireles here in Harlingen, we appreciate you all being here. We'll see you tomorrow.